Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. My name is Nick Marro with Occupy Fantasy. As always, you could find me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. I'm here today to help you break down tonight's NBA DFS slate on both DraftKings and FanDuel. We got a 10-game slate tonight. A lot to get through. It doesn't lock until 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, though, so we do have an extra half hour to get ready. Um, Also, if you haven't already, please like the video. Also, subscribe to the channel. That helps us get more free content like this out to you on a regular basis. If you're not already a member of Occupy Fantasy, check the links in the description below. You get access to the model you see here, which I'll be using throughout the video. We have a single lineup builder, multi-lineup builder, private Discord server full of seasoned pros to help you improve your game. There's also a 30-minute window leading up to each slate's lock where you can ask your lineup and slate specific questions. All right, so I'm pulling up the 10:30 injury report now on my other screen. I like to go through game by game. I know sometimes it can be a little bit tedious, but I know I need to go through quickly today. We got 10 games, 20 teams to go through. The good news is I don't think we have any back-to-back, so all the injury reports are out. So we should be able to parse through this news rather quickly. I also have a FanDuel window open and a DraftKings window open. I'm going to just slowly kind of build lineups as we talk through these teams and games, so you guys can kind of see where we stand going into this slate tonight. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right. So first game on the slate at 7:30. We got a few. Let's see here. We got the Bulls at the Raptors. The Raptors are 5-point favorites at home. Just a 219.5 point game total here. So certainly not a very high total. On the Bulls side, Ball's obviously out for the season. Dragic is out. Javante Green is out, and then they have a few G leaguers out that we don't really need to discuss. So first and foremost, the big three is healthy for Chicago. DeRozan, Levine, Vooch. They're all okay plays. There's no real major pricing discrepancies on any of these guys except for maybe DeRozan over on DK. We haven't seen him sub 8K in a while, so that 7,700 price tag on him does have some appeal to me. The Bulls did acquire Patrick Beverley via buyout. He's been starting at point guard. This kind of cuts into minutes for Caruso and White, so they're not really viable as value anymore, but I'm really not looking to Beverly much either. He's not going to see much usage with that first unit. So I would say if you're landing on Levine, landing on Vooch on either site, fine. They're okay plays on a large slate. DeRozan on DK is probably my favorite bull here. I'm not sure I'd even call him core though, just because it is a tough matchup with Toronto, very low total. But other than that big three, there's really not much to like from Chicago on a 10-game slate today. So we can move over onto the Toronto side of the ball here. Scrolling down. No news other than Otto Porter is out. So really another situation where everyone's pretty much healthy. On these big slates where you're getting healthy teams, it's rare that there's going to be any priorities from those teams. Just because where injury creates opportunity elsewhere, those are going to be the pricing discrepancies that we're going to have to capitalize on. So we're seeing guys like Fred VanVleet, Siakam, Barnes, Podol, OG, Trent. They're all kind of priced where they should be. If I'm landing on them as kind of a last man in, they're all decent plays. I don't mind VanVleet over on FanDuel at 8,200, 9,700 on DK. No, thank you. Siakam's fine, just below 10K. Not crazy about Barnes. But Podol at 6,100 on DK is a little bit interesting to me. But again, tough matchup. You're getting a sub 220 total. Everyone's pretty much healthy. The good news is Nick Nurse likes to run his players into the ground, so all these guys are going to play a lot of minutes. But other than maybe VanVleet over on FanDuel, there's no priorities for me on Toronto here either. All right, so we can move into the next game on the slate now. A lot of games in the 7:30 window. I'm going in the order of the official NBA injury report. We have the Lakers at the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are 9-point favorites at home, looking at a 230.5 point game total here. So we can start with LA. Some major news. Obviously, LeBron is injured and could miss extended time. He's going to be out tonight. Anthony Davis is listed as probable. D'Angelo Russell is doubtful. So we got to keep it on the starting lineup. I think we see Schroeder slide in. No surprise there. Obviously, Russ is now out of the picture here as well, so Schroeder's minutes should be secure. We see him drawing significant ownership on both sites. I think he's a solid option. 4,900 on DK, 5,500 on FanDuel. Really good guard value. Malik Beasley on the wing, as long as he's starting 4,500 on DK, does feel a bit too cheap. Don't mind him over on FanDuel at that 5,200 tag either. Anthony Davis, whenever LeBron's out, we can look to him. Tough matchup against Memphis, but still no Steven Adams for the Grizzlies, so it's not as tough as it maybe would be earlier in the season. So I do like Davis here. Definitely easier to get to on DK, even with only center eligibility, because you could play two centers, and he's 700 less than he is on FanDuel. Jared Vanderbilt coming off a career game. He's at least bull as an option in tournaments. It feels a little bit chasey to me to go after those points. But yeah, as things stand, I mean, there is a lot to like here for LA just because LeBron's going to be out. Maybe we go ahead and pencil in Schroeder. There's a ton of good guards on this slate, though, so this may not hold. And then over on DK, I do really like the price on Beasley. Let me just check his game log. They took away his small forward eligibility, which is annoying, but he's playing over 30 minutes a night. And with LeBron out, I do think he's going to see most of those wing minutes. So we go ahead and pencil in Beasley. I do like Schroeder over there as well, but just for the sake of, I don't know, variety, I'll just use Beasley on DK and Schroeder on FanDuel for now, but I'm comfortable using both on either site. Anthony Davis on DK as well. I'll go ahead and pencil him in. I don't know if this holds. There's a lot of great payups. And yeah, Memphis, not the best matchup, but at the same time, Davis definitely in play. So don't mind him there. But yeah, LeBron being out obviously creates a lot of opportunity for these guys. Maybe we see Rui slide in the starting lineup. He'd be okay as kind of secondary value, but nothing other than Schroeder, Davis, Beasley that I'm prioritizing. I do like Vanderbilt. I just think he's going to be a little bit overowned coming off that massive game. If you're getting to him, fine, especially on DK at 4,100. I think he is kind of a staple of cash builds over there. Let's see here, Vandy. Yeah, he's got power forward center eligibility. I don't think he's going to replicate that game he had last time, but at 4,100, if he does half that, he's hitting value. So 3 Lakers feels excessive. I'll probably pull these as we continue to build. But for now, there is a lot to like on LA, and I do want to emphasize LeBron being out, creating opportunity for the other starters. Over on the Memphis side, only Steven Adams on the injury report, so no surprises here. John Morant, obviously one of the better guards on the slate. He looks good anytime he's available. Great matchup with LA. Very high total. Should be pacey. A lot of reasons to like Ja here. Keep an eye on the starting lineup. Whoever starts at center is going to be interesting value, whether it's Tillman or Clark. I only want the starter, honestly. I think if one of them gets in foul trouble as the starter, obviously you could see the backup kind of I don't know, go off at low ownership, but at the same time, on such a big slate, I don't know that I want to play those kind of games. So for me, if Tillman's starting, I like him. If Clark's starting, I like him. But either way, I mean, I wouldn't call them necessarily like top priorities or anything like that. Desmond Bain looks fine, kind of in that mid range. Not someone I'm rushing to get to. Jaren Jackson Jr., he's the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year right now. He's better on FanDuel where you get the extra point for blocks and steals, but he is a little bit cheaper on DK. I don't mind him on either site. And Dylan Brooks is just still only 4,200 on DK. I'm never rushing to click him, especially on a big slate. But when he's that cheap, taking as many shots as he does have some upside. So Memphis looks good here. Nothing I'm calling a top priority or a core play, though. We can move into the next game on the board now. We have the Bucks at the Nets. The Nets are at home, 6.5-point underdogs, 230.5-point game total here as well. Starting with Brooklyn, no Ben Simmons, so no real surprise there. No real major news here we have to keep an eye on. Dinwiddie feels a little bit too cheap at 7K flat over on DK, 7,600 on FanDuel. He's viable. Dorian Finney-Smith has not been great since he was traded over to Brooklyn. He's cheap enough, though, to consider maybe his last man in. Definitely not a priority for me, though. We've seen big ceiling games out of Mikal Bridges. I think you can continue to go to him. Forward is historically one of the thinner positions, but DK went ahead and took away his forward eligibility as well. So he is now shooting guard only, which makes him less appealing over on DraftKings than he is on FanDuel, where you can play him at small forward. But yeah, tough matchup with the Bucks. It should be a quick game. Hopefully it's competitive. But yeah, I don't know. There's really nothing here for the Nets I'm rushing to get to. If Cam Thomas ever gets back into the starting lineup, I'd have some interest in him. Obviously, he has a very high ceiling. His price continues to dip because Jock Vaughn's only giving him around 20 to 26 minutes per night. Not a fan of that decision, but if he does get into that starting lineup again, or we get word that he's going to be playing more minutes or anything like that, I would have interest in Cam. But as things stand, I do not. Cam Johnson would be the better Cam to play. But really, no priorities for me on the Nets at all tonight. Moving over to the Milwaukee side of things, we have Giannis listed as probable, so he should be good to go. He keeps playing and leaving hurt, though, so maybe proceed with some caution. Obviously, a great matchup here against the Nets. If you can afford him, he's excellent. Not trying a ton of ownership. I think some people are afraid or they got PTSD from these last few slates where you play Giannis, he goes in, and then he's hurt in the first quarter, misses the rest of the game. I don't think we're expecting that tonight. The fact he's listed as probable this early in the day tells me he should be good to go. But yeah, proceed with some caution. I wouldn't go all in on a player like that, at least until he can show he can stay healthy. Chris Middleton looks fine here. he hasn't been starting. If he slides in the starting lineup, I think they're going to continue to ramp up his minutes. Once he's getting over 30 minutes consistently, the 64 and 6K price tag on FanDuel is going to look way too cheap. Don't mind Drew. Don't mind Brook Lopez against his former team. Grayson Allen's okay. Bobby Portis, yeah, really nothing in secondary options I'm looking at for Milwaukee. Giannis is fine. Good tournament play. Wouldn't call him the cash pay up tonight, though. And then Middleton, I like in that mid range, but he's kind of boomer bust just because the minutes haven't been consistent. So, good game environment here between the Nets and Bucks, but really no priority or core plays. One more 7:30 game. We have the Wizards at the Hawks. The Hawks are 7-point favorites at home. 235-point game total here, so the highest total we've talked through to this point. No injury news for the Hawks, so another healthy team, kind of priced where they should be. If you get to Trae Young, great. I think this is the first game where they have Quinn Snyder as their head coach, so that's something to keep an eye on. The rotations could look a little bit different than they have to this point in the season. Obviously, guys like Trae Young, DeJounte Murray should be fine. Maybe we see more minutes for Capella, though. It seems the last few coaches for the Hawks didn't want to play him full run. Maybe he starts getting over 30 minutes again. And at 5,700 on DK, that does interest me in tournaments. There's no guarantee here. We got to wait and see on these rotations. But if you're looking to take a shot in tournaments, I do like Capella's upside where he's sub 6K. Hunter, Collins, Bogdan, all okay options. If Sadiq Bey starts, I guess he's viable. But really, the only plays I'm rushing to get to here are probably Trae Young and maybe DeJounte Murray. I do like Capella over on DK, but there are no priorities for me on the Hawks tonight. Over on the Wizards side of the ball, taking a look here. Monte Morris is questionable. If he's out again, DeLon Wright's going to become very interesting. Kristaps Porzingis is still doubtful, which is creating more usage for Kuzma. It's creating more usage for Beal and also Denny Avila. So we see a lot of ownership going to Kuzma over on FanDuel. No surprise there. He's pretty popular over on DK as well. 7,500 on FanDuel is too cheap. I'm going to go ahead and pencil him, and I think he is one of the better kind of small forward mid-range plays today. Whenever you get him sub 8K with KP out, he has a very high ceiling. Pretty scoring dependent, so not always the safest option, but I do like him a lot at that price. Over on DK, 7,800, he looks good there as well. I'm not going to pencil him in yet, but I do think he's strong. Daniel Gafford, 4,500 with no Porzingis on DK certainly feels too cheap though. So I know we already got AD in. Maybe I pull AD for now. I do like him a lot. But yeah, for the sake of this build and keeping things pretty balanced, Daniel Gafford at 4,500. I mean, he is 10x upside with KP out of the lineup. I don't know that he's going to get that, but at the same time, you really don't need him to go that off, for lack of a better word. I like some Daniel Gafford here. Again, Kuzma looks really solid. Bradley Beal, not as popular as maybe he should be. That's not surprising on FanDuel where he's 9,300, but 7,600 on DK. Yeah, sub 30%. I think we see him around 20% by the time we get to the start of the slate. I like him a lot here. So, yeah, some opportunity with Porzingis out. And again, if Monte Morris is out, DeLon Wright should get the start at point guard. He'd become an interesting value there as well. So Kuzma's really the gem here on FanDuel. I like Denny on both sides. Not going to call him a core play, though. I love Gafford at 4,500 over on DraftKings. And then Beal on DK at just 7,600 is too cheap for him over there. So, yeah, lots to like for Washington. We can move into the 8 o'clock window now. We have the Nuggets at the Rockets. The Nuggets are 10.5-point favorites on the road. 232-point game total here. Let's take a look at Denver. So Aaron Gordon's back. He is probable, but now we see Jamal Murray is listed as questionable. Whenever Murray's out, that just creates more usage and opportunity for the rest of the starters. Maybe Reggie Jackson gets the spot start, but I wouldn't be rushing to play him. If Jamal's out, that's going to be a boost to Joker, KCP, Gordon, Porter Jr. They're all going to look solid here. Obviously, if you can get to Jokic, I think he's probably the best pay up on the slate in terms of raw point upside. There's a lot of good pay ups on this slate, though, so you don't have to force him in. Obviously, 10.5-point spread. There is some blowout risk, but the Nuggets are on the road, so maybe this game stays close enough. But yeah, I like Joker here. Gordon coming off the injury, he's fine. A little bit overpriced, but we've seen some massive ceiling games out of him. Michael Porter Jr., much better on DK where you're getting him sub 6K. And then Jamal Murray, if he's in, he's fine. There's just so many good guards on this slate. I wouldn't call him a priority. Really, it's Joker here for me from Denver, if you can afford him. But until we get more value to open up, maybe it makes sense to stay a little bit balanced. But I do like Jokic a lot. Over on the Houston side of things, still no Kevin Porter Jr. Deshaun Tate is out as well. So Sengun's going to look good here. The thing with Houston is they are pretty much tanking. On a night to night basis, we're seeing Sengun playing like 20, 25 minutes. So I like him. I like that he's. Oh, wait, no. Porter's questionable. We have him in the model. If Porter's in, that's going to cut into Sengun's upside. And even so, I mean, he just hasn't been playing enough minutes to justify the 7 to 8K price tag. If Porter's in, not going to rush to get to him. That would take me off Jalen Green. I'm really not loving any of the Rockets here, in the backcourt at least. In the front court, Jabari Smith and KJ Martin should see a bit of a boost with Jayshawn Tate out of the lineup. There is always a chance Terry Eason slides in as a starter. I don't think we see it here. But if he were to start, he would become kind of a borderline court play for me. I like Smith. I like Martin. That's pretty much it for me from Houston. Tough matchup against Denver, and if Porter's back, that is going to cut into everyone else's upside. So the other 8 o'clock game we have the Kings at the Thunder. The Kings are 3-point favorites on the road, 236-point game total here. I'm going to start with Sacramento. Just taking a quick look. DeAndre Fox is questionable. Oh, man. So if Fox is out, then Davion Mitchell is probably going to project pretty well. He's been chalk a few times this season with Fox out. I don't think he's hit value once. So on a 10-game slate, even if Fox is out, I probably won't get to Davion, honestly. I'll let the field chase that, and if it hurts me, it hurts me. It's just been too many times this season. I can't go back to that well right now. Malik Monk, when he is getting extended run, he's been outstanding. So if Fox is out, I'd actually go to Monk, even though he probably wouldn't start or even start at point guard. Like maybe they put him in at shooting guard or on the wing. But even coming off the bench with Fox out, that's going to be enough of a boost in usage for Monk for me to want to get to him. The other major benefit would be to Domantas Sabonis' upside. He'd look excellent here with Fox out. Just under 10K, pretty expensive. Decent matchup against OKC though, and again with Fox out, he's going to see enough usage to justify that price tag. If Fox is in, you can still get to Sabonis, just not really a priority at all. And then if Fox is in, I think he's fine, but over 9K now, I'm not rushing to get to him. It's kind of a buy high situation with him. He's been in the 8K range most of the year, so I'm just not going to rush to get to Fox in this matchup. But secondary plays like Murray, Barnes, Herter, they're okay. Really nothing I'd be rushing to get to other than Sabonis, and really only Sabonis if Fox is out. And same with Malik Monk. I like Monk here, but similar to Jared Vanderbilt, who we talked about on the Lakers, he's coming off one of the biggest games of his career. So if people want to rush to that on a 10-game slate, he's probably going to be overowned. So I like Monk, but only probably get to him if Fox is ruled out. On the OKC side of things, we definitely have some news here. SGA's out. Poku's still out, and that's really all that there is significant. But with SGA out, Giddey should look excellent once again. I mean, for whatever reason, he really hasn't been hitting the ceilings that we expect out of him. Part of that is tanking, part of that is limited minutes. But yeah, I mean, 7,500 on DK, 7,700 over on FanDuel. He looks excellent to me. Lou Dort, surprisingly seeing a massive boost in usage with SGA off the floor. Not really known as an offensive player, but he is getting shots off with SGA out of the lineup. So I like him a lot on both sides. I'll go ahead and pencil him in. Mainly because these wing positions, like small forward, are the toughest to fill. So I do like getting to some Dort. He's cheap enough, especially on DK2 at 5K flat. I mean, we got a nice little core going here. I'm probably going to pull Vanderbilt. I don't want to call him a core play. But yeah, still around 7K per player where we stand. Slowly building on FanDuel, still around 7K per player, and we could kind of pick the payups we like as we go. But yeah, I like Dort. Jalen Williams, fine. Really not someone I'm rushing to get to. Isaiah Joe, one of the hottest three-point shooters in the league right now. On DK, where he's only 4,400, I like him a lot as a value play. I mean, it's like if you're choosing between Malik Beasley or Isaiah Joe, I actually slightly prefer Joe. But the thing is, you want to see Isaiah Joe in the starting lineup, and we may not have that news by the time the Lakers game locks. So just keep an eye on that. Beasley might be safer until we get that OKC lineup. But if Joe's starting over him, even though he's scoring dependent, he's just been taking a ton of shots, crushing value at that 4,400 price tag. Even on FanDuel at 5,300, I could see getting to him. You know, he has the upside. Like him better in lineups where you're not using Josh Giddey. They could cut into each other's players' ceilings, but they're both viable here, and it is a great matchup against a Kings team that plays pretty fast with mediocre defense. Kenrich Williams, fine, coming off the bench as the last guy in. Jalen Williams, if he starts, that's Jaylin Williams in the front court. If he starts, is a decent option here. But yeah, really the priorities are going to be Dort, Joe over on DK, and then Giddy on both sites. I think people are kind of sour on him after a couple bad games, but we know the type of ceiling he has with SGA out of the lineup. Moving into the 8:30 window now, chugging right along. We get the Mavericks hosting the Pacers. Mavericks 8.5-point favorites at home, 237.5-point game total here. Nice healthy total. We can start on the Dallas side of the ball. Davis Bertans is out. Maxi Kleber's questionable. So really nothing we have to write home about on that. Luka still very expensive. Obviously has a massive upside, but with Kyrie sharing the floor with him so much now, I'm really not rushing to get to that 12K price tag. He's okay. He's in play. Great matchup against Indiana, but really not the type of player I'm prioritizing tonight. Like I said before, I prefer Jokic as a pay up in that range. Kyrie Irving, just under 10K on both sides, obviously has a very high ceiling. But yeah, pretty low floor. I'd only use him in tournaments. And then, yeah, there's really just nothing else as far as these secondary plays for Dallas go that I'm all that interested in. Luka's fine in tournaments. Kyrie's fine in tournaments. Christian Wood's been kind of limited. So yeah, I'm really not rushing to anything from Dallas. Over on the Indiana side of things, let's take a look. Kendall Brown's out. That doesn't really matter. So Tyrese Halliburton looks fine. Better on FanDuel where he's sub 9K. Miles Turner's had some big games lately. He got that contract extension. He's been really good ever since that happened. So I'm not sure there's correlation there, but I do like Miles Turner on DK at 7,400. The issue is there's just so many good centers, whether they be pay ups or super value plays. So it's really tough for me to want to get to Miles Turner today, but he's at least viable on both sides. No more power forward eligibility for him over on FanDuel, which is tough to see. So he's tougher to get to there. Buddy Hield, fine, scoring dependent, high upside, low floor. That's really it for Indiana, though. Halliburton's really the one play I have much interest in. All right, 9 o'clock window now. Spurs at the Jazz. The Jazz are 10-point favorites at home, 236.5-point games total here. And this might be the most important game on the slate, mostly because of what we're dealing with on the Utah side of things. But let's start with San Antonio. Isaiah Roby's out. Devin Vassell's still out. Romeo Langford is out. Trey Jones is questionable. So if Trey Jones is in, I think he's fine. But if Trey Jones is out, then whether Malachi Branham or Devontae Graham start at point guard, whoever starts at point guard for Trey is going to look excellent here. Even coming off the bench, Branham's been solid. He is priced up now, though, so I'd prefer to see him starting for me to want to click that. Same with Devontae Graham, 4,800 over on DK. Definitely feels too cheap. 5,100 on FanDuel, totally reasonable, but you want to see him in the starting lineup, and you want Trey Jones to be ruled out. Keldon Johnson's fine. Zach Collins, prefer him on FanDuel where he still has power forward eligibility. Jeremy Sochan looks good here. Really, whoever starts for San Antonio is going to be interesting. Obviously, they're kind of tanking as well, so the minutes might not always be safe. But we do see Keldon Johnson, Zach Collins, Jeremy Sochan getting consistent run. Malachi Branham's been good. Devontae Graham as well. But again, I'm only interested in those guards if we get Trey Jones ruled out. So another situation to keep an eye on. He is currently questionable with left foot soreness. Okay, now over on the Utah side of things, no Jordan Clarkson tonight. No Colin Sexton tonight. They traded away Mike Conley at the deadline for Russell Westbrook, who's been bought out of his contract, is now a Clipper. So who are we left with at point guard? That is Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn, 3,600 on DK, 4,500 over on FanDuel. You see the massive ownership here, and he's kind of unavoidable, honestly. I don't know how you get away from Chris Dunn unless we get more value to open up at guard. So on DK, I'm going to go ahead and pencil him in 3,600, one of the best value plays on the slate. Come on, we got him in there. And then over on FanDuel, a little bit more expensive. But I mean, yeah, who else is going to play point guard for this team tonight? He's coming off a 40-point fantasy game in only 23 minutes. So I don't think he replicates that. I don't think he needs to, though. Love Chris Dunn here. While I'm here, might as well go ahead and pencil in Taylor Horton Tucker as well. He's been seeing plenty of usage, whether he starts or comes off the bench. He's an excellent option tonight as well. Going to go ahead and pencil him in. So we have almost a full build here, and we're left with 9,500 per player. So I'll keep talking through. I'll kind of erase as we go, but love some Jazz tonight. And so does the field, though, so keep that in mind. We're seeing THT almost 50% owned over on FanDuel. A little bit more reasonable at 30% on DK, but I love him on both sites. Chris Dunn, He's the best value play on the board as things stand currently. Laurie Markkinen, 8,600 on FanDuel's too cheap. Love him over there. Kelly Olynyk's fine as the last man in. Walker Kessler on DK. He's finally up over 6K now. He's 6,700. He's all right as a center. There's just so many good centers on the slate. But just to reiterate, Chris Dunn is the priority. Taylor Horton Tucker close behind him. Then I like Laurie Markkinen a lot over on FanDuel. So we can move into the 10 o'clock window now. Just a couple more games. Thanks everyone for tuning in and bearing with me as we plug through this massive slate here. Let's take a look. We got the Clippers. Clippers are 6.5 point favorites at home hosting Minnesota, 233.5 point game total. Rudy Gobert is probable, which is good to see. Jalen Noel is questionable. I clicked the Clippers first. That's my bad. Let's go to Minnesota. Yeah, so they're pretty healthy. This is actually healthier than they've been the last few slates. Anthony Edwards, wherever you can afford him, solid to pay up with D'Angelo Russell now out of the picture. He's seeing a nice boost in usage. Mike Conley, sub 6K on both sides. He's fine. We've seen better games out of Gobert now that Conley's there with him in Minnesota, so he's okay as a center play. And then Kyle Anderson, filling in that kind of narrow wing position at a reasonable price, sub 6K. He's fine. No major priorities for me from Minnesota. I like Anderson. I like Edwards. I like Gobert, but it's really tough to call any of them priority plays. So we can move over onto the Clippers side of the ball now. Clippers, Zubac, questionable. And that's it. So if Zubac's out again, that's going to secure minutes for Mason Plumlee, who'd look really good. Kawhi, fine. Paul George, fine. Those two are solid on both sides. Really like Paul George, where he's only 8,300 over on DK. Surprisingly, both George and Leonard are cheaper over on DK, but these are the plays you're looking at for the Clippers, really. And then Westbrook coming off the bench. I mean, he has upside. Really not something I'm all that interested in. Decent matchup here against Minnesota. But yeah, other than Leonard and George, it's really tough to trust anyone. If Zubac's out, I will say Plumlee becomes a very interesting center play, however. Moving into the last game on the slate, we have the Trailblazers at the Warriors. The Warriors are 4 point favorites at home, 235.5 point game total here. Let's start with Portland. Dame coming off a career game where he had 71 real points. He's not on the injury report. He should be good to go tonight. He is now over 11K on both sites. I love him though. If you can afford him, Dame is excellent here. No denying that. Blazers are going to be without Nurkic still. Still no Anthony Simons. Still no Justice Winslow. So with Simons out, Dame's seeing even more usage than he normally does. Cam Reddish is fine as long as he's starting on the wing. We've seen Tybal starting a lot lately. Don't have much interest in him. Just not a great offensive producer. A little bit more appealing on FanDuel where you're getting points for blocks and steals, but not a priority. Jeremy Grant, 6,300 over on FanDuel looks good. I think he's totally reasonable over there. Don't mind Drew Eubanks as a value center. I think we have better options, though, at center tonight, so I'm not rushing to get to him. But Dame is Dame. I think he's one of the best plays on the slate. Like him wherever you can afford him. If Nasir Little were to start over Cam Reddish, I'd have some interest in him as value. But really, the priorities here is really just Dame and then Grant over on FanDuel, where he's a little bit too cheap. Over on the Golden State side of things, taking a quick look, we got Curry out, Draymond probable, Iguodala out, Gary Payton's out, Andrew Wiggins is out. So with Draymond back, Kuminga probably doesn't get the start here. If he does, Kevin Looney slides out of the starting lineup. So keep an eye on that. I mean, if Kuminga is starting, I think he's fine. But with Draymond back, he doesn't really have the same upside he does when Draymond's out. So just proceed with caution on that, even if he is in the starting lineup. Jordan Poole, 7,600 on FanDuel's too cheap. You're getting shooting guard eligibility over there. 8,500 on DK is certainly reasonable. Don't mind him. And then, yeah, DiVincenzo's had some decent games with Wiggins out. Clay's been shooting the lights out lately, so I like him as a tournament play. Over 8K, though, I don't really consider him a cash option just because he is so scoring dependent. So the priorities here are really just Poole. Don't mind Kuminga, but if Dre's in, I mean, I don't really know that I want to go there. So really just Jordan Poole for me from Golden State. Don't mind DiVincenzo or Thompson in tournaments. All right, so we're through the game by game. Thanks again, everyone. I'll quickly hit refresh on the model while I look through what we've done so far on FanDuel. So we got Dunn, we got Schroeder, we got Horton Tucker, Kuzma. Really solid start to what we're building on FanDuel. You can even fit Jokic, Can you fit Jokic and Davis? I mean, if we get two more punts, you could fit Joker and AD. Maybe if Fox is out, you go down to Sabonis. Um, but yeah, I like that you could fit Joker and then also maybe get someone like Lauri Markkanen in there. You're still left with 5K per player, so really solid build over on FanDuel. Obviously, keep an eye on things throughout the day, especially on a 10-game slate. We're going to get more news. We're going to get more guys ruled out, so things are going to change, which is all the more reason to be a member at Occupy. You get access to the model that updates in real time, and our Discord server where we're posting updates as things like that come through. So sorting by ownership, on FanDuel, Dunn, Horton, Tucker, Kuzma, Schroeder, Markkinen. No surprises there at all. Lou Dort as well, I like a lot. And then let's take a look at what we did on DK before we touch on the ownership. Chris Dunn, Isaiah Joe, a little bit risky. I mean, I want to see him in the starting lineup. Coming off the bench in the second half, he actually went off. So even if he doesn't start, there is some merit to playing Joe there. But I think Malik Beasley is going to be your safer shooting guard. Lou Dort looks good. Gafford, Beal, Horton, Tucker. So yeah, what are we left with up as far as paying up to? If we want, we can get Joker, we can get Dame. I went Joker on FanDuel, so let's go ahead and go Dame on DK. But yeah, really solid build starting here as well. Maybe I pull Joe for now. Beal, I don't want to build a full lineup. That goes against terms of service, but yeah, taking a look at TK ownership, Dunn, Vanderbilt, as I mentioned, probably safer than Isaiah Joe. But I think the field's chasing those points from last game a little bit, so maybe don't rush to get to Vandy. Horton Tucker, I like. Malik Beasley looks good. Lou Dort, Dennis Schroeder, Gafford, Kuzma, Joe, Beal. So yeah, we're pretty much right in sync with the model today, which is great to see. Sorting by index, which is just really the top plays. I think Luke is continuing to pop towards the top. I mean, I think we're going to see him come a bit down as he plays more games with Kyrie. Like, I'd rather get to Dame or Joker tonight as pay-ups. But yeah, the field kind of agrees. So if you could get Luke at lower ownership, there's certainly merit to playing him in tournaments. But yeah, 10-game slate tonight. Once again, thanks everyone. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. I think we're coming up on 6,000 subscribers, which would be great to see if we could get to that sooner rather than later. My name's Nick Marro. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. Let's have fun tonight, everyone. Take care and good luck.